I think it's also important just to briefly point out how we got here over the last several days, because the decision to take Jimmy Kimmel off the air sparked an incredibly swift and loud and expansive backlash. And we saw protesters show up outside Disney Studios in Burbank after Kimmel was suspended. We saw Disney start to actually lose subscribers. This is the Bob Iger calculation that Steph was talking about, and widespread calls to cancel memberships. I mean, even Howard Stern was among the chorus of people who said he was canceling his Disney subscription after Kimmel was taken off the air. 400 celebrities signed an open letter backing Kimmel, including Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep, and Jennifer Aniston. Former Disney CEO Michael Eisner ripped the company he devoted his life to and asked, where has all the leadership gone? Even Republican Senator Ted Cruz, again thanked in the monologue, and Rand Paul blasted the FCC chair's pressure campaign against ABC to get Kimmel sidelined. And so, in the face of all that pushback, Disney made the decision to put Kimmel back on the air. It's not done. Nearly a quarter of the stations, the local stations owned by big conglomerates, didn't air him tonight. But as we said at the top of the show, there was a very loud standing ovation. We're going to show you that now.
I've been hearing a lot about what I need to say and do tonight. And the truth is, I don't think what I have to say is going to make much of a difference. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I have no illusions about changing anyone's mind. But I do want to make something clear because it's important to me as a human, and that is you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't think there's anything funny about it. I posted a message on Instagram on the day he was killed, sending love to his family and asking for compassion, and I meant it, and I still do. Nor was it my intention to blame any specific group for the actions of what it was obviously a deeply disturbed individual. That was really the opposite of the point I was trying to make, but I understand that to some that felt either ill-timed or unclear, or maybe both. And for those who think I did point a finger, I get why you're upset. If the situation was reversed, there's a good chance I'd have felt the same way. I have many friends and family members on the other side who I love and remain close to, even though we don't agree on politics at all. I don't think the murderer who shot Charlie Kirk represents anyone. This was a sick person who believed violence was a solution, and it isn't. Ever. And also, selfishly, I am a person who gets a lot of threats. I get many ugly and scary threats against my life, my wife, my kids, my coworkers because of what I choose to say. And I know those threats don't come from the kind of people on the right who I know and love. So that's what I wanted to say on that subject. But I don't want to make this about me because, and I know this is what people say when they make things about them, but I really don't. This show is not important. What is important is that we get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this.
Starting us off this hour's Democratic Congressman Robert Garcia of California. He's the ranking Democrat on the House Oversight Committee. Thank you for being here with us. Let me just start by asking you, I played one clip of it. You probably watched the whole thing. What was your reaction to kind of some of what we heard from Jimmy Kimmel tonight, given the whirlwind of the last week?
Yeah, hey, Jen, I did watch the whole thing. I mean, pretty incredible. Obviously, not just the reception that he received from the audience. Clearly, he's emotional about what's happened, and I thought that his comments about Charlie Kirk were very heartfelt. I thought what stood out to me is just his direct attack and not holding back on what Chairman Carr and the FCC did and are trying to do. I mean, he called out President Trump's actions. He called out Brendan Carr. He made it clear that this is a moment in the country as it relates to freedom of speech that is under attack. And so he made a really robust defense of the First Amendment. He clearly was not holding back. The fact that he mentioned Carr by name and was very direct in what Brendan Carr is trying to do, I thought was very courageous. And in no way did Jimmy Kimmel hold back, or was he somehow reined in by ABC or his production team. That was what Jimmy Kimmel wanted to say. And so I really commend him. And I think the broader point, which I think tonight's actually a very remarkable moment as it relates to us as a country, but also as the media, those that are in the media, in really pushing back against Donald Trump and what he's trying to do. This was one of the most forceful, if not most forceful, reactions to Trump's overreach on the media and freedom of speech that we have seen. I think the country rallied behind Kimmel. Clearly, Disney was feeling it in the pocketbook. And so I really want to commend just Jimmy Kimmel, the decision by ABC. We have a lot of questions still, but this was a good night for freedom of speech.
Yeah, I keep thinking about what John Oliver said about if you give the bully your lunch money, he just comes back hungry, which is a very good analogy for the moment we're living in. So as you mentioned and just talked about, and this struck me too, he didn't mince words about Brendan Carr at all. I know this is top of mind for you too. I mean, you're obviously the ranking member on the Oversight Committee. The chairman agreed to invite him last week, invite Brendan Carr. Has anything happened with that? And what kind of outstanding questions do you have at this point? Jimmy Kimmel's back on the air, but about 20% of these the local affiliates didn't play Jimmy Kimmel because they're owned by Nexstar and Sinclair. So what questions do you have, and what's the latest on Brendan Carr coming to speak to your committee?
Yeah, we were essentially forcing a subpoena process through the Oversight Committee. Democrats were on Republicans. And so James Comer turned to me and said, hey, Will, we'll work on getting Brendan Carr here. He made a commitment to me. I reiterated that commitment publicly during the meeting. And so we are working to bring Mr. Carr in front of Oversight. We have a lot of questions. I mean, his remarks, what he has said prior to, of course, Jimmy Kimmel being yanked off the air, are outrageous and stunning and should concern every single American. And so having Carr in front of the Congress is going to be very important. And I expect, and we're going to demand, that James Comer keep his word, not just to me, but to the Republicans and Democrats on the committee as well. I mean, that is going to be incredibly important. And broadly speaking, we've already launched an investigation separate of that into what ABC and Sinclair and Nexstar and all of these companies are doing. Well, the idea right now that a conservative, obviously owner and a person that runs at least the Sinclair pieces of the network can make these decisions, knowing that they are in front of the government, of the Trump government, in trying to get this consolidation going, it's crazy. And I think most Americans are watching this going, what the hell is going on? And when you explain that you have these networks that are essentially trying to consolidate in front of the government, these are multi-billion-dollar deals. And you have, of course, ABC, which has interests in front of the government. And essentially, they are making decisions based on their bottom line, not actually on supporting the freedom of speech and the First Amendment. And so I think this is a good moment. I think a lot of Americans are learning a lot about FCC and what Trump is trying to do to silence his critics. And that for democracy is a really good thing.
Congressman Robert Garcia, you're right. Nobody knew who Brendan Carr was. Most people didn't. Some people did. But as of a week ago, now a lot of do, and you're going to be looking into it. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Okay, I'm bringing a few more people into the conversation. Joining me now is MSNBC senior White House correspondent Vaughn Hilliard, president and CEO of Media Matters Angela Carusone, and MSNBC columnist and political analyst Charlie Sykes. Okay, a lot to unpack here. I'm just going to start with you, Vaughn, because before Jimmy Kimmel even spoke, Donald Trump, who you've been covering for some time, posted this social media post where he essentially, we just have it up there on the screen, he essentially said the White House was told by ABC that his show was canceled, not something that was ever said publicly either, or that we know of privately, but that's what he says, and suggested he was going to go back and maybe sue them again. Tell us a little bit, to the degree you've heard, about what's going on in the White House right now, anything you've heard since Jimmy Kimmel's monologue.
He noted that Disney had already given him $16 million.
Yes, he did.
Right, and this is where it is very clear here. The capitulation does not get Donald Trump off of your back, right? Jimmy Kimmel said it tonight. He said they first pushed out Colbert, and then who do they turn to? They turned to Jimmy Kimmel. And he put up the post reminding folks that after Kimmel was taken off air and preempted, he explicitly said it's time for NBC now to take action against their late night host, saying he's going to continue to move in that direction here. And I think it's important context that here in Washington, D.C., people were not able to watch Jimmy Kimmel on their local ABC affiliate. Roanoke, your Little Rock, right? Seattle, Rochester, New York. I mean, the places that did not have access to this. And this was a decision here, clearly, by Jimmy Kimmel to take hold of this moment. And it was the line where he said that the president was unable to handle a joke about himself. So what did he do? He went and tried to fire hundreds of people from their job here. The president clearly wants Brendan Carr to continue to fight and clearly is threatening now a lawsuit to try to get him off air.
He keeps bringing up the $16 million repeatedly. He's brought it up at so many different press avails.
To John Karl?
To Jonathan Karl, exactly. Angela, let me bring you into here to this conversation, because I was asking Stephanie Ruhle about this earlier, just about, about 20%, 20 to 25%, you can tell me the exact number, I feel like of these local affiliates who are owned by Sinclair and Nexstar decided not to air Jimmy Kimmel tonight. There was very clear activism that people could take when they were angry last week when he was pulled off the air, right? People end your subscription to Disney or Hulu. There were protesters outside. It was more obvious. What should people, this is all over my social media feed and people asking me questions. What should people do now if they turned on their TV, they didn't see Jimmy Kimmel, they're frustrated, they're learning about these conglomerates?
Now it gets a lot more complicated, right? Because for a lot of people, just like they're learning about Brendan Carr, are probably learning about Sinclair and Nexstar, or at least hearing about them for the first time as well. Disney is a well-known brand. That means that people not only know it, but they have expectations about it. And when they do something that feels off, it's very easy to both respond in a high-valence way, a highly emotional way, and you know what to do. You complain to them. You try to get others to complain to them. It's a lot more complicated at the local level, and here's why. You have to know who your local station is. Now, you may know it. You may see it firsthand that they're owned by Sinclair or Nexstar. You may know that they're not carrying it tonight. You can complain to them, but they're not going to care necessarily. You have to really talk to their advertisers, and that's where things start to get prickly, because some of the advertisers are not really going to necessarily be affecting the bottom line. They might have bought national spots. You have to figure out who those advertisers are. Not all these groups have organized locally to be able to provide a list. So as you can see, it gets really complicated and convoluted. I think the important thing to do here is to keep putting the pressure on them that they want it. And here's why it matters. So you should, even though that Nexstar and Sinclair won't care directly, they need to have that record. Because ultimately, they actually have an obligation to be carrying Kimmel's show. There's an exception in these affiliate agreements that's in the public interest. And if you notice, Brendan Carr has been out there saying consistently, he's been using that buzzword, and it's not an accident. It's the one exception that these affiliates have that they can hide behind for not carrying the program without themselves getting in trouble for breach of contract. And so as long as the public is complaining and there's a really clear record there, it weakens their ability to say this is in the public interest, because their own audiences, the own people that they're supposed to be serving with these broadcast licenses are complaining about it. So there's a lot of really complicated and convoluted things people could do, and they should. They should absolutely take action as much as they can. But the most important thing and the easiest thing they can do right now is complain to the station directly, and make sure you do it either in writing, either by email or by social media, so that there's a record of that, because that record is going to matter in the next couple weeks as Disney starts to try to enforce their contract against the affiliates.